Welcome back to my conversation with my husband on his role as a caregiver to his parents. We're picking up the discussion where we left off. Things I wish I knew about trust administration before I executed my parents' trust. If you haven't watched part one of this discussion, I'll add it at the end of this video. So let's jump back into the conversation. So knowing that your dad had the trust and he wasn't so willing to share it with us, and we ended up having to steal it so that you could do what you needed to do. I think that a lot of people don't understand exactly what trust administration is and how much work it can be. So you want to share some of the good, bad, happy, and sad of trust administration?
Trust administration, I would say, number one, you've got to be an extremely organized person. And in my case, with my parents who were married for 60 years, who never threw a piece of paper away in 60 years, you have to navigate an absolute mountain of paperwork. And you have to figure out on your own, because I really was doing a lot of this behind the scenes so that they wouldn't see themselves as a burden. If I complained about it, then I would be a burden. And so I chose, I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to very quietly start grabbing all of these piles of paper that have been piled up in closets, in cabinets, in drawers, take that home and try to figure out, how do I make sense of their lives? In 60 years of living. So I basically figured out, okay, I need to get file boxes, Pendaflex folders, and start organizing their life in with bills, taxes, and stocks or securities, investments, those types of things. The first job was really paying their bills, right? So thank God we had a trust where I could take that to a bank and say, my parents have dementia now. We have letters from their doctors indicating they're incapacitated with dementia, and I'm going to have to start taking over paying their bills for them. That really is probably the first solve that really helped us quite a bit in navigating this journey. It is a slow process. It doesn't happen quickly because the banks want to be very cautious, right? Of
Mhm.
a person claiming to be a relative, claiming that they're going to take care of business, but they're very slow to do that. And the trust makes it, and the financial power of attorney makes it easier to get that conversation started with their bank and slowly start taking control over paying the bills.
Mhm.
Um, and with their trust, I also had financial power of attorney to buy and sell stocks and securities as well. That came along a little later because I really needed to consolidate all these accounts. My father had multiple accounts across the country that I really needed to access in the event that there was a major medical emergency where we needed a lot of money very quickly to care for them. I wanted to consolidate, gather up all these things. That turned into a very long process. That's been a process of about a year now of contacting each one of these companies in different states. And what made it such a long process, each one of these companies that had their stocks or securities each has a mountain of paperwork internally that you must fill out.
Yes.
Right. So, this being 2024, you would think everything would happen digitally, right? No, you're right back to filling out a form with a pen, putting it in an envelope, throwing a stamp on it, and sending it through the post office snail mail to this company. And in some cases, to gain access so that I was the acting trustee of these securities, in some cases, that took 6 months just for one account, right? So I'd say obviously the first piece is you got to be extremely organized. Second, you have to be extremely patient. This is going to be a long journey. My journey of a year is very short. And I can probably give that as a warning sign to most folks who are looking to, my father or my mother has a couple of shares of stock. How do I go about accessing that? Well, be patient. It's going to take some time, and you're going to have to go through a lot of phone calls when you're on hold, right? You're
Mhm.
going to have to fill out a lot of paperwork. It's going to be a very long journey while you're also caring for your loved one at the very same time, right?
Exactly.
So hence feather merchant in a windstorm. It feels like it's never going to end, right? Because there's so much to do on a daily basis. You're at your wits' end, trying to care for your loved ones, but also trying to live your life as well, pay your own bills, and also
Yes.
check on your investments and go to work and all those things.
You brought up a good thing that I want to come back to as well when we're talking about, trust administration and setting up as the trustee. So you actually had a start and a stop and another restart. So once we realized that they were incapacitated with dementia, that was the first start of trust administration, trying to step in while they were both still alive. That process was a little slow, so everything didn't get taken care of. And then unfortunately, Phil passed before all of that happened. And so, what happens when someone passes away, their power of attorney goes away. So, while it's in an act while they're incapacitated because they had a durable power of attorney, once they pass, no more power of attorney. That's when the trust actually really has to step in. So we started with the trust administration with them both surviving. With Phil passing, then the trust administration had to change to a different type of trust administration because now your mom is a surviving spouse. So therein lies a lot of different pieces that people probably may not be aware of is that, even though you may become the trustee of your parents' trust while they're alive, there's still another step after they pass.
Exactly, exactly. There are many steps, and you just have to be patient and calm. And that sometimes that's real tough to
Mhm.
do when you're very stressed out by the entire situation and you're not exactly sure what to do in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, I didn't know what to do. I had to
Mhm.
reach out to the trust attorney because I didn't know what to do. And I was so afraid of making a mistake. Obviously, when you're talking about somebody else's finances and you're trying to figure it out from the start with a mountain of paperwork, you really don't want to make a
Mhm.
mistake, and you're so nervous about not doing the right thing, servicing their accounts as if they would have, in the
Right.
spirit that your loved ones would want it taken care of. That can be incredibly stressful too, while you're taking care of them at the same time, right? So,
Exactly. Going and all of this going through, like I said, you're taking care of them. You're seeing your parents in a different light and a different perspective as well, and you're trying to do all of this work behind the scenes where they can't see you. How many times do we walk in that house with a duffel bag empty and walk out with it full of papers?
mhm.
I distract him, you Phil. You distract him, I Phil.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think a lot of folks who watch your channel may identify with the hoarding situation. It may be quite noticeable. There may be paper all over the floor, or it may be more subtle. It may be tucked into the couch, or it may be
Yes.
tucked into a drawer. With my parents, it was both. There was both paper on the floors and also paper tucked away. And we had to really strategically take a lot of that paperwork out because we didn't want to alarm them, right? We didn't
Mm-mm.
want them to think that they were losing control.
Right.
So we almost had a preservation deception of our own. We didn't want them to suddenly think, oh my God, I've lost my marbles and they have to take over because
Yes.
I'm drooling on myself now, right? You have to do it in a very subtle way, just like you have to address them respectfully. You have to do that in a very subtle way.
Yeah, I did share the part about, once we figured out that things were going south and we needed to get a hold of that trust and finally finding it. Now we went over there with the printer to make copies so we could slip it back. And then when we needed the wet signatures and we had to go get it back, your mom still hasn't noticed we took it out. So
Mhm.
in some cases for us, we discovered taking things out in front of them, that was a trigger. Taking things out when they couldn't see, they never noticed
Yeah.
because they've forgotten where they hid things or they've forgotten where it was. So that whole preservation deception, What they don't know won't hurt them. Exactly, has not hurt them. I remember when we first started cleaning out your old bedroom for the caregiver and your mom could see all the stuff that we're taking out. I mean, she harped over that for days. She'd call, you got to bring this back. You got to bring that back. You got to bring back the broken coffee pot. You got to bring back this broken thing. And then within a couple of weeks, she stopped asking for it. But then all the stuff that we went in and, stole behind her back, she never noticed was missing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
No cops be sent to the house now because he has the trust. He's in charge. We weren't really stealing anything. um, so when you talk about that the snail mail part of it, I was really taken aback, and I forgot the name of the company that wanted everything done by fax. Wanted everything done by
Exactly. And like I indicated, it's 2024, but you're faxing paperwork to a company. It felt like the 80s or 90s. And you'd say to yourself, this is such an incredibly inefficient process. There's got to be a better way. In a lot of cases, there isn't, right? You have to abide by the rules of the company that's holding the money at the time, right? Or the
Mhm.
securities or the stock, and it can be incredibly frustrating. You want to yell at somebody, but you can't because you're trying to navigate their process to get your loved one's stock or securities or money. And you just have to slowly go through a very painful process. All of it's painful. I think in the end, when you step back, it's all painful, it's all slow, and you all wish it would go smoother, and it doesn't. And it really affects your happiness. It really
Mhm.
has a detrimental effect. It can be very depressing sometimes. And like you had indicated in a lot of your videos, you a lot of time have to take a step back and take a few minutes and just say, it's going to be okay. I know it's stressful, but we're going to, reach a resolution with this one problem here. That I'm just going to relax, not think about the 10 other things that need resolution yet. Just enjoy the small win that I just had, whatever that may be, right?
Yes.
Whether it may be something as simple as you getting a walker for your mother or father and them accepting it and saying, okay, I'll use that walker.
Mhm.
Something, these little victories are so huge. And a lot of times we don't stop to enjoy those little victories.
I look back of all the arguments that we had on grab bars in the shower being for old people and us just doing it finally and stop arguing and just doing it to it then became their idea that they needed
Yes,
it.
exactly.
And
Isn't,
like,
isn't
you can take the credit. I don't care as long as you use them.
exactly. Exactly. And so you're trying to navigate this incredibly difficult situation that keeps changing, right? Because
Yes.
their cognitive decision making and reasoning changes over time. So like you had clearly indicated, now they consider those grab bars their decision and they're the ones who decided, whereas we almost had to force those on them. And there was
Mhm.
some resistance there. There definitely was resistance because, oh, that's for old people. Oh, we're young and virile. We don't use grab bars.
I have
Um,
I have more grab bars in my house than they
oh, and we laugh about it, but it's funny, you can laugh about it later.
So one of the other tips that I want to offer people about trust administration is my in-laws love to deal with small mom and pop institutions. And those institutions, they believe in sending them paper. There weren't like online accounts and things of that nature. So what happened was when we came on board, we found out that there's a small mom and pop managing pretty much all of their retirement accounts that are part of a big firm. We're like, okay, so why is there a middleman? Now we use the same, big companies. We're like, hey, let's just consolidate all that under our guy. The mom and pop took 9 months of nickel and diming the paper with us and finally saying, oh, well, it's because so and so they want this. And so we're like, okay, let's call our guy. He goes, I don't know what they're talking about. That is not our process. And so we found a lot of these people, they don't want to give up the money. They
Hmm.
don't want to lose their account. So they may snow you. They may put you on hold, hopefully that you'll stop fighting them and just leave it with them. But we really had to get that money away. We needed to get consolidated. We wanted better fees, all that good stuff, because you're a fiduciary for your parents. You want to make sure you're not willy-nilly losing their money. So um, once we had enough with them, we went to the big guy and said, hey, look, they're saying that all of this is all because of you. They said, no, it's not. We got you. They helped us get those accounts moved over. So you have some type of leeway with some of these smaller accounts, especially if they're managing accounts tied to, say, like a T. Rowe Price or a Vanguard or something. Go to those people and say, look, they're giving me a hard time. I need to move it over to you, or something that you, whatever it is that you want to do, and get them to help you, because we could not believe how slow they were moving, how much they were lying about the paperwork, and the type of paperwork that was needed. And then at the end, not even doing it the way they were instructed, saying, oh, well, your guy, he was so great. How come he didn't tell us to do it that
Hmm.
way?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. So when you have, say, for example, an IRA, in a lot of cases, you have number one, the administrator, the company that holds the money, and you have the manager, the company that invests the money. And so we had that situation. We had a large company that was the administrator that was holding the money, but a very small mom and pop that was managing the money. And with the managing of the money, to your point, they did not want to give it up, and they threw every hurdle in our place. We went
Mhm,
through multiple rounds of paperwork. So my probably number one recommendation when you're dealing with trying to corral accounts is persistence.
mhm,
Make them know that you're not giving up, that you're going to keep on this, you're not going away, and they can't throw more hurdles in your way to slow you down. And so obviously that ties into patience as well.
mhm,
Patience and persistence will win this race. It's a long journey, right? It's not a destination, it's a journey, just like life
mhm,
is.
mhm,
And you're going to have to be incredibly persistent. You're going to have to be passionate about managing and being a fiduciary for your parents or your loved ones. You have to be incredibly passionate about it because it's going to take a lot of your time, and you'll want to give up. Absolutely. There are so many times when I felt like, oh, it's not worth it. It's just so much work. And I'm trying to do my own job at the same time, working 12 hours a day. Uh, I just can't do this anymore. But you've got to get it done because you're doing it in the spirit that your parents would have, because they were passionate about it.
and you had me in your ear. No, we're not giving up that $100. It's still $100.
Very true.
Speaking of $100, so in digging around and trying to find the paperwork and things that we needed, we actually came across something that, in case this happens to you too, we actually came across a stack of American Express traveler's checks. Yes, American Express traveler's checks. They don't sell them anymore. However, on their site, if you find any in your parents' home, you can take them to a bank for a bank to follow whatever the process is that American Express has given to the banks for you to be able to cash those checks out, as long as you have the right paperwork. So for us, they were in Phil's name, the trust under Phil, he's no problem that he can take care of that. So you just want to make sure that if you find those things, don't throw them out thinking that because they don't sell them anymore, that they're worthless.
And it's a lot of times it's tough to find these resources to answer these questions. But with all these different um, issues using up your time, you have to figure out, because you're the only one there to figure all this out. Where are the answers? Where are the resources? And I get it, it's incredibly stressful, and you're just trying to do the best you can. A lot of days you don't have a plan, and if you had a plan, that plan blew up by 7 a.m. and you're on another plan, right? So I get it. You would love to think everything's like social media. Everybody on social media, they've got it all figured out. Everything goes so smoothly for them. That's not what happens in the real world. In the real world, oh my God, you barely have an answer every day, and you're just trying to figure it out on the fly.
And I think that that's why we're having this conversation is because our real world scenario that we're dealing with doesn't have to be your real world scenario because you can put all your accounts in, consolidate them now. You can pull all of your paperwork together so someone knows all the bills that need to be paid. They know what your tax situation is about. They know all of your stocks. They know all of this stuff about you so that when they have to pick it up, they don't have to go through what we're going through right now.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. Excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah, this is a PSA, folks. For those who don't know what that means, public service announcement. Learn from our mistakes so you don't have to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really am passionate about this because of what we're going through. And over time, while I was at my previous job, I'd been there for like 26 years. People have been hearing stories of my family. I mean, I started telling the stories about my aunt and hey, everybody, do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Don't let what happened to my aunt happen to you. And so we've been sharing all of this. And so when folks wanted to know how are we going to keep up with your stories when you're not working with us anymore, I'm really glad that I'm keeping this up. But what I really am glad is that my husband, who's going through all of this and still living it, is allowing me to tell more of the story than I thought I'd be able to tell because I want to preserve his privacy because the man hasn't grieved, and I'm sorry for giving out all your personal business. Because he jumped in. We jumped into this situation that presented itself to us. It was more dire than we thought. Phil passed, but we still have Mill, and he just jumped. Being who he is, he just jumped right in. I'm taking care of my mom, and so I. But he sees value in us sharing what we're sharing because the couple of times that he's talked to people, they've even said to him, "Me too. Oh my God, your parents, mine too. How did you work through this?" And he can see that his pain is helping people. So I do appreciate that.
No problem at all. And I think probably a final piece of advice is to have conversations with your loved ones, whoever they may be, your mother or your father, your grandparents, brother, sister. Have those meaningful conversations with them early and often. So you find out really what they're thinking. And so in the end, you can say, you know what, I had all those good conversations and I'm okay. Because once obviously they're gone, you can't have those conversations. And death really is so final, right? So with my father, he passed away almost a year ago. You kind of wish that the phone would ring and he would call you, but that's never going to happen anymore, right? So you need to have those really heartfelt, honest conversations, break down barriers, right? Break down the silos and break down the barriers and really get to what your loved ones' concerns are. Because
Mhm.
once they're gone, they can't tell you. And that sounds very obvious. But a lot of
Yes.
people do wind up that way. They don't have those honest conversations. Their loved one passes away and they say, "Oh God, now what do I do? They didn't tell me this or that, and now I don't know what to do."
Yeah. And I'm going to tag team onto that and say, you could lose them before you lose them. And so, especially with, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's causes dementia as well. You Once they lose that cognitive function, that executive function, and the ability to reason, you're not going to be able to get those open, honest answers out of them. So they might not be able to tell you where the will is, which is what we think happened. They're not going to be able to tell you how much money they have or where the bills are. So knowing that stuff now or being able to get on the accounts with them or at least get the passwords if they're not afraid of technology, the sooner you understand, the better off you're going to be because we never know what's going to happen to them. It could be, a freak accident or it could be a long debilitating disease. So, you want to find out, like you said, before you lose them or before you lose them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
So again, thank you so much for coming on and telling it from a male perspective. I know there are a lot of male caregivers out there, a male sons coming in to take over, and I wanted you to be able to see a representation of you. It's it's not just the bossy daughters and daughter-in-laws who's doing this. So thank you.
And thank you very much for inviting me to your channel. And I wish everybody a smooth sailing process. It probably won't be that. It'll probably be very difficult, but you'll get through it and you'll figure it out. And best of luck to everyone.
I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, so you'll be notified of future chats. And while you're at it, let me know your thoughts, comments, or additional tips down in the comments below. If you haven't watched part one of this conversation, you can check it out here. And if you need help identifying the estate planning documents that you need to have so that someone can step in and help you like we did with my in-laws, check out my Estate Planning 101 playlist. If you made it this far with me, thanks for watching, and I'll see you over here or here.